Move to the galley, dear. This aisle is for the first-class boarding sequence, and frankly, you're obstructing the premium flow. The command was delivered with a sharp, dismissive nudge. Cassandra Vane, the lead flight attendant of Aurelian Air, didn't just use her voice to patronize, she used her position to physically intimidate. As Sienna Sterling stood near the cockpit entrance checking her watch, Cassandra lunged forward from the premium cabin. With a sudden aggressive sweep of her arm, she shoved Sienna toward the narrow hallway leading to the back of the aircraft. "I'm scheduled for the pre-flight check, Cassandra," Sienna said, her voice a low, vibrating hum of discipline. She stood perfectly still in a charcoal cashmere blazer layered over a crisp white shirt. She didn't raise her voice, but her composure was like a physical wall. "You're scheduled for a seat in row 44 if you're lucky," Cassandra sneered, ignoring the leather flight bag at Sienna's feet. Cassandra stepped into Sienna's personal space, her face twisted with the arrogance of a woman who felt she owned the cabin. She didn't stop at the shove. She reached out and grabbed the lapel of Sienna's charcoal blazer, giving it a sharp, disrespectful tug to force her back. "I've spent 15 years maintaining the elite standard of this airline. I know a nobody playing dress-up when I see one. Now, get to the back before I have the ground marshals process you for interfering with flight operations. We have real dignitaries boarding, and we don't need you polluting the first-class aesthetic." Around them, the elite, passengers in vibrant sapphire blue silk wraps, mustard yellow linen blazers, and deep emerald green trench coats, stopped their boarding process. The woman in sapphire let out a sharp, mocking titter, while the man in the emerald blazer adjusted his glasses, looking at Sienna as if she were a piece of malfunctioning equipment. They watched the humiliation with a cold, silent approval, none of them questioning Cassandra's authority. Sienna stopped her retreat at the edge of the galley. She didn't look angry, she looked clinical. She pulled a slim, black encrypted tablet from her flight bag and tapped a single command that made the aircraft's internal PA system emit a short, sharp tone. "You've spent 15 years maintaining this standard, Cassandra?" Sienna asked, her voice dropping to a level that made the nearby passengers go silent. "That's unfortunate. Because in 15 minutes, the only thing you'll be maintaining is your unemployment file." She tapped the screen again. "Execute Clause 8.3. Total Flight Deck Lockout. Trigger the Command Integrity Audit. I want the crew manifest cleared and the lead attendant's credentials revoked immediately. Thanks for the support, we couldn't do this without you. Subscribe for free to help us keep bringing you more stories. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments. Now back to the story. The sharp, electronic chime of the aircraft's security system echoed through the cabin at exactly 3:17 p.m. It wasn't the sound of a seatbelt sign, it was the sound of a total operational override. Cassandra Vane's hand dropped from Sienna's blazer as her own communication handset began to blink a frantic, warning red. The digital boarding screens in the first-class cabin, which usually displayed the flight path, flickered and died. They were replaced by a single glowing white crest, the seal of the Sterling Aviation Group. "What did you do to the comms?" Cassandra stammered, her face turning a sickly, translucent shade of gray. "The cabin doors are locked from the outside. We have a schedule to keep." The reinforced cockpit door hissed open. The co-pilot, Julian Drax, stepped out, his face a mask of pure, unmitigated shock. He didn't look at the passengers in their mustard and emerald finery. He ran straight to Sienna and snapped into a rigid, respectful salute. "Captain Sterling. We were wondering why the pre-flight authorization was pulled from the tower." Julian gasped, his voice trembling. "The system just sent a command override to the entire fleet. What is the status of the flight?" Sienna straightened her charcoal blazer, smoothing the fabric where Cassandra had gripped her. "The status of the flight is grounded, Julian. Your lead attendant just decided that the elite flow of this aircraft didn't include the woman authorized to fly it. She didn't just deny me access, she laid hands on me and attempted to physically eject me from my own flight deck." Julian turned to Cassandra, his eyes filled with a terrifying, cold fury. Cassandra stood frozen, her jaw hanging open as she looked at the nobody she had just tried to shove into the back of the plane. You're the captain?" Cassandra whispered, her voice cracking as the reality of the 4 stripes hidden under Sienna's blazer began to dawn on her. "Clause 8.3 of the Sterling Aviation Safety Code," Sienna said, her voice a surgical strike that cut through the silence of the cabin. "The Command Integrity Trigger. Any crew member who engages in physical hostility or discriminatory battery against a commanding officer is subject to immediate, non-negotiable termination and the permanent revocation of their flight credentials." You didn't just insult me, Cassandra, you compromised the safety of the entire flight deck. The realization hit the cabin like a physical shock. The woman in the sapphire wrap, who had been mocking Sienna moments ago, suddenly looked down at her hands, trying to disappear into the leather upholstery. The man in the emerald blazer turned pale, realizing the woman he had laughed at held his life in her hands at 35,000 feet. Julian, escort the former lead attendant off the aircraft, Sienna said, her voice a low, final hum. And notify the ground crew, we are swapping the entire cabin staff. I won't fly an aircraft where the aesthetic is more important than the crew's integrity. The handshake collapse was absolute. As Cassandra was led off the plane by airport security, she didn't leave with her 15 years of seniority, she left with a security escort, walking past the crystal chandeliers of the VIP terminal for the last time. Sienna stepped into the cockpit and closed the door. Because power doesn't need to roar. It just needs to take flight. If you believe that leadership is earned through respect, not a uniform, like this video and share it. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done to Cassandra? Subscribe now for more stories of unstoppable dignity.